All right, we're not gonna waste time with any intros or any more new music. We're just gonna get right to it. Um, all right, we're going to. We'll have. I'll be interacting with you guys shortly. I just have some things I want to say first. Um, some points I want to make. Uh, Obviously, you guys know what we're gonna discuss here. I already gave warning earlier today. If you have any interest in discussing entertainment, movies, or in particular Godzilla, which is something we often talk about here, tonight's not the night. So I would say wait for the next stream, and you know, and then we'll continue that conversation. Um, this stream is not going to stay on this channel. Once the stream is done and it's completed processing on YouTube, I'm going to remove it and either upload it somewhere else or I'll cut it and put the highlights somewhere else. I didn't have my Twitch account ready for streaming there. I don't even know if I can stream on X right now because I think you need a certain amount of file. I'm not sure, but I never set that up. So this is really the only primary platform I have to stream. And so I'm using it for that. But like I said, I'm not going to keep this stream on the channel. I'll move it somewhere else when I properly set up another account somewhere where something like this is more appropriate. All right. So in terms of Charlie Kirk, so while we've had some discussions about politics here in the past, I've never really delved deep into some of the people I watch, some of the people I follow. But Charlie Kirk was definitely one of them. And the first time I ever saw Charlie Kirk was about 10 years ago when was probably a few years in to Turning Point USA. I remember I watched a college, his company, Turning Point, was hosting Ben Shapiro at college to do a discussion. This is around the time when the Ben Shapiro meme started popping up on YouTube. The Ben Shapiro owns or Ben Shapiro destroy meme started popping up. And then I would see him systematically as those events became more common. It wasn't until about when he started his own platform, which I think was about 2018 or 2017. And I would watch him periodically, not all the time. I really started paying attention to him when he kind of indirectly took over for Steve Crowder on college campuses. So Steve Crowder used to do, of course, you guys know the famous meme, Change My Mind. So Steve Crowder was doing that for a long time. And I think he stopped doing it around 2018 or 2019 because of increased violence and him personally being attacked. And then Charlie Kirk kind of picked up the torch for that, but he kind of did it better. His thing was definitely inspired, I think, in my opinion, by Steve Crowder. The whole "Prove Me Wrong." It was very, very similar to Change My Mind. The only difference was his was more of a debate. Well, they were both kind of debates, but he took it to a whole new level, right? Like he just, and not only that, but obviously, like his company was almost like its own RNC. He became so big. I was picking up my kids from school when my parents called me and told me he had gotten shot. Cause yeah, even my parents watched him. They knew who he was. And I didn't worry initially, because the first thing that happened in my mind was, all right, well, shit, I mean, Trump got shot. So I thought to myself, these guys, they're prepared, they have security, I didn't think it was anything to worry about. Like, yeah, it was like, holy shit. And there's some concern there, but the first thing I'm thinking is, yeah, he'll be fine. I'm sure he's probably got like a bad, like either a shoulder wound or something crazy like that. So then when I got home and I kind of started watching people and started seeing just how serious and how somber people looked. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So of course, like an idiot, I went on to X and the first thing I saw was the close up of him getting shot. And which, if you haven't seen it, don't go looking for it, man. It's brutal. I have seen real life violence like this before. And it's always different from what you think it might be in the movies. You know what I mean? And I mean, much like anybody else who saw that clip, you knew right away there's no way he's going to survive. There's no way. And I felt a little bit of optimism when it came out that he was in critical condition, but stable. And that kind of went away real fast. I think that narrative, that message went out and lasted about 15 minutes before President Trump initially came out and said that he had passed away. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprisingly a lot angrier than I thought I would be. You know, because when it comes to either celebrities or people like this that are out there in the mainstream and you see them on TV or you see them on YouTube or whatever, you're not close to them like you're close to like your family or your kids. So it's in my whole life, it's been very rare for me to get either emotional or overly emotionally invested in something tragic happening to someone famous. But this is different. And I think it's different because I had been listening to what he's had to say, and I had essentially been following him for the last 7-8 years, or even a little bit longer than that. Even if I didn't watch him nearly as often as I watched others, because, you know, there's so many podcasts, you can only watch so much. But I loved watching his college stuff. It was very good. It was a real deep look into just how miseducated a lot of the young adults are in this country. So I was really upset. I was really upset because you should be able to go out there and say what you want without, and I know I sound like a broken record. Everyone has said this, but it's true. I mean, this guy was like the last person to give the left a chance. Crowder abandoned him. A lot of right people on the right side, even the ones who do, the big ones who do all the shows and all the podcasts, even though they never said it outright, you could kind of tell they were just kind of done with that side. And Charlie Kirk was still out there willing to speak to them. And there's even, if you go and look, there's even clips of him converting people from the left to the right, which is another reason why I think that he was targeted. He was convincing people. And the last few days, I have been extraordinarily upset because it shouldn't come to this. You know what I mean? With that said, I also realize that at this point, you kind of got to fight fire with fire. These people, and I want to make this very clear, not violently. I still don't believe that's the answer. I pray to God, because look, there's crazy people on the right side too. I think we all know that. And I pray to God that somebody crazy on that side, on our side, does not go and do something stupid. But I do believe the chances are a lot higher. But I think what's important is that we need to remember that these people don't care about life. Even if some crazy right-wing person is going to go out there and do something stupid, they're not going to care. They won't cheer for it. Believe me, they'll make themselves victims out of it for sure. They're still trying to make themselves victims, and they're not even the ones who had anyone that they find endearing hurt or murdered in this case, or assassinated. They don't care about life. These are the people who are willing to kill a baby at 9 months. Okay, these are people who are willing to try and kill Donald Trump. These are people who are celebrating any harm that's done to anyone that you love that they disagree with. Be that person someone close to you, or be that person that you endear or admire out in the public space. So even, I would say, for that reason alone, violence is not the answer. But there is a way to hit them where it hurts more than anything possible. This would hurt them more than any kind of violence. And I'm going to give you all my what I believe needs to be done. Probably not going to be. A lot of people will disagree with me, even some of you here today. But I don't care, because it's gotten to that point. First things first, Transgenderism needs to go. It needs to be completely abolished and banned from this country. End of discussion. If you're a 25-year-old adult, you got your own money, and you want to go and take all the chemicals required to change your innards, and if you want to go and split your dick or stretch your twat, that's your business. However, anyone in this country who is trying to promote or convince, or any parent trying to transfer the sex of their child to the opposite sex by using castrating chemicals, by performing surgeries that alter their body, that needs to be shut down, period. End of discussion. No, there's no debate anymore. They love affirmation. They love affirmation so much that if you don't affirm them, they will kill you. Well, you know what? We'll kill the affirmation outright. Transgenderism needs to be banned, period. It has been nothing but a net negative on this country. It's only been around for what, 10, 11, 12 years, and it's gone mainstream over the course of the last 10, 12 years. And what has it really bought us? What has it really bought us? Kids that lives have been ruined at the tender age of like 8 or 9 years old or in their early teens. A lot of people out there using it and taking advantage of it to basically counter the whole woman movement. If you're a female, even if you're on the left and you believe in feminism, transgenderism is a complete counter to that. Women are essentially being erased in their own spaces in terms of sports and things like that. Then you have sickos who love to dress up as women and pretend that they're transgender when they're really just sick pedophiles. Transgenderism has been a net negative. It's got to go. That's number one. Number two, any discussion when it comes to communism, socialism, or Marxism, there needs to be an amendment added that completely and officially bans any potential legislation passed that would promote socialism, communism, and Marxism. You can discuss it. You can keep the books, because I don't think it's something we should completely get rid of in terms of educating ourselves on just how bad it can be. But any of these fucking Democrats that want to come in and try to push their social views, their communist views, or their Marxist views, we need an amendment that prevents any politician from having any opportunity to put any of those programs into legislation. Goodbye. Time to go. We should learn about it. We should know about it. We shouldn't put it into practice. Where has it gotten us? Where has, so far, from what I brought up, where have any of those two been a net positive for this country? You can't name it. The biggest argument for socialism and communism and Marxism, the biggest argument, well, it hasn't been done right yet. You know why it hasn't been done right yet? It just doesn't fucking work. It's time to learn from history and see where those beliefs have gotten other countries. And because that information is out there is why I'm saying, yeah, we shouldn't ban the books about it. We shouldn't ban education about it. But when it gets to the very, very top of our society, where there are politicians out there that want to pass legislation, none of them can be socialist or communist. I tell you right now, that guy wins in New York, you're going to see the effects of it. I personally believe that all federal funding for all colleges across the country should be revoked until those colleges teach true American history, not the whole bullshit that we've been given. They cannot teach DEI. They cannot teach critical race theory. None of that. until and no stupid social programs. Our education has to be about education. Teach doctors, teach lawyers, teach about how to farm, agriculture, teach people things of value, sciences, actual science, not the pseudoscience that these motherfuckers like to spit. Actual science. And until colleges across this country, until they can prove that they are teaching young adults the fundamentals of craftsmanship in different categories, and that they're not trying to indoctrinate them with social beliefs and how one person is suffers or is more of a victim than the next person, until they can prove that those curriculums are out of their college campus, they get zero federal funding. These motherfuckers make enough money from the tuition they charge. They don't need any more money from the government or our pockets. So that's got to go. Anybody who promotes or celebrates violence should be deplatformed. If you're out there celebrating the death of anyone, and I mean on any side, deplatform. You should be ostracized from society. If you are subhuman, and this is all stuff I think should be passed legislatively. I want to make that very clear. If you're subhuman and you want to celebrate the death of someone, and of course this goes for both sides, but obviously what's triggering this is that there's one side that's doing it over the other. You're ostracized from society. Nobody has any obligation to hire you. Nobody has any obligation to associate with you, and you are not privileged enough to have a voice on the mainstream. And yeah, I know this kind of runs a little bit counter to what a lot of us have spoke about in the past, but you know what? These are the games they want to play. A lot of them are crying right now because there's a lot of them losing their job. Yeah, well, you want a cancel culture and you called it, it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. Well, here you have it. Like Billy Joe said, we didn't start the fire. It's always been burning. We're just happening to put a little bit of oil on it. I also believe there should be legislation passed that no flag stands above the American flag in this country. So all these Democrats out there who like to try and perch the LGBT flag above the American flag in places like the United Nations in New York, that's not happening anymore. We're all under one flag. That's not to say I'm saying ban the LGBT flag. You can have your little fucking flag on your desk. I don't give a shit about that. One flag stands above the rest. That is the American flag, the stars and stripes. Period. I also believe there should be legislation passed that anybody in this country at any time participating in a protest cannot conceal themselves. You cannot wear masks. You have to be out there, and this is for the protection of everyone. Why? Because if you're wearing a mask, what is it you intend to do? I firmly believe that anyone who's at a protest wearing a mask should immediately be pulled aside, and they either have to remove themselves from the protest, or get locked up until the protest is over. No more anonymity in protests, because if you're going to go out there and start some shit, I want people held accountable. It'll be a lot harder for these Antifa fucks to start riots or assault people if we can see their face. No more fucking LGBTQ fucking parades. I would have been fine with it but it seems like every year these motherfuckers have 6 parades a year. They celebrate for 6 months, and it's a bunch of people in assless chaps doing sexual degenerate motions while kids are present. You know what? We're not fucking doing it anymore. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a fuck if you're gay. It's old now. It's been overglazed, as young people would say. If you're gay, good. Be happy. Enjoy your time with your significant other, and keep your sexual bullshit in your fucking closet, in your bedroom, like everybody else. I don't want to go walk the street and see people dry humping each other nearly naked in public. All right. If you want to go on X or whatever and do your little fucking, hey, it's Pride Day, fine. And that's it. No more of these fucking degenerate, nasty ass. And then on top of all, the people doing it are not even like good looking. It's like people, like fat asses like me going out and assless chaps and trying to show that, you know what I mean? Like, this enough's enough. Enough is enough with this degenerate shit. I know there was one more, and I'm trying to remember it before I get to you guys in chat that I wanted to, or was it, or maybe the last one was the one about the protest. That was a big one because these motherfuckers hide. Oh no, there is, yeah. I think it's time that we start when it comes to rapists. I think they need to see the death penalty at any time. If you're a rapist of any caliber, if you rape women, if you rape children, I think it's a death penalty instantly. No serving time. You're dead. You're dead. And then finally, anyone who repeats the tragedy that happened the other day, anybody who's out there trying to assassinate a politician, a public speaker, any assassination attempt on activists or whatever. And again, this rule applies for both sides. I want the penalty to be public execution, instant. In other words, once the evidence is there that they committed the crime, once it is proven that they've committed the crime, they don't get a death row for 20 or 30 years. Instantly make a public channel for people to witness the execution of these criminals. And that is, I believe, where we need to go. And I'll tell you why. These people need to be beaten into submission. This is not about debate anymore because they're not going to listen. They killed the one guy who was closest to at least trying to listen to them and try and make them understand with peaceful discussion. There's nobody in this world, there's no one in this country that is going to persuade them otherwise. So the hammer needs to come down, and it needs to come down hard. They need to be forced into submission. And we can force them into submission without doing anything dirty, but you got to be able to just be willing to abolish and dismiss and eradicate everything they believe in. Everything they believe in has to be eradicated with no emotion, with no consideration about their feelings, and offer them an off-ramp. Offer them an off-ramp. If they want these affirmations, if they want these social programs and communism, then I say we offer them a choice. Stay here and concede to what we believe, or we will happily pay for you to leave the country. And I am willing to donate some of my dollars to taxes that would ship these people the fuck out. Let them go to China. Let them go to Russia. Let them go to England. England's a lot closer to what they want than it is here. Let them go. And that is what I believe at this point needs to be done.
You are one awesome motherfucker. Zimzilla99 super chatted $9.99. Here's to the stream. Had a false flag happen at my campus in MA. Not what I wanted to deal with after what I saw the other day, and have dozens text and called to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah, it's funny, Zim. I was going to mention that. Was that UMass? Because my wife was telling me when we were walking the dog, because, you know, obviously me and my wife, that's where I met my wife, in Massachusetts, before we moved down here a couple of years ago. But thank you for the 10. I'm glad you're all right. All right, guys. So that's my extreme view. I know it's extreme, but that's where I'm at now. These motherfuckers cannot be negotiated with, but that doesn't mean we need to look for blood. I'm telling you, hit them where it hurts. Take away their affirmation. Take it away. I'm all for that, honestly. Yeah, like I said, I think taking away any opportunity for socialism or communism to enter our legislation in what we believe in, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying ban Marxist books or communist books or anything like that. I'm not saying ban it. In fact, I don't think we should. We should always remember just how bad these systems are. But that doesn't mean that we allow any of these fucks to come in and try and push that through legislatively. UMass Boston and Lowell, the recent one was Boston. Yeah. What's up, Tim? They got the firing squad in Utah, so maybe. Yeah. I hope. I wish we could watch it. Ban gay books. Again, you don't have to ban books. You just ban them out of the schools from like kindergarten all the way up to like hell college. Because if you're a freshman in high school, you don't need to be reading about that shit. You don't really make a decision. A lot of young teens and early young adults don't really start making life decisions until at least 18 years old, the minimum, and then maybe even 25, 26. Hell, I didn't go back to school till I was 27. I didn't decide my direction until I was almost 30 years old. And that's not normal. It should be done younger, but that's not how it is anymore. Can the Patriot Act influence Trump? The Patriot Act is more about, I mean, he could definitely utilize it to monitor but the Patriot Act, it's a double-edged sword because it does tap into our privacy. So yeah, in that sense, he can use it. It's no extreme anymore, Rob. I'm at this point where anyone that thinks this was a good thing, just stay the fuck away from me. Look, it's been 10 years that we've been making this attempt to be peaceful and cordial. And after a while, that's it. What the fuck did they expect? That we were just going to keep saying, oh yeah. And I'm not saying any of this is going to happen. Look, I pray, I wish everything that I listed would come to fruition. It's not going to, because you even have people on the right there and be like, no, you can't do that. And well, fuck, then this will keep replaying itself. You either shut it down and get it out, or you keep dealing with it. And personally, I don't want to deal with it anymore. Every normal human Venom, every normal human has seen this for what it is. The people that are celebrating and making these stupid, and if some of them are doing it just to get clicks, that is the stupidest fucking thing you can do. If you're just like a normal person and you saw this as an opportunity to get clicks at, you know, either to monetize it or just because you're an attention whore and you don't really believe it, then you are a fucking imbecile. And I know there are people out there like that. I know there are people who out there who just saw this as an opportunity to get attention that may not necessarily really care one way or the other. Boy, they must have regrets today. But out with folks. So saying peace. Have a good stream around. Oh, all right, Zim. Take it easy, man. I'm glad you're safe. It's good to see you too. Charlie Kirk, the new MLK. It's very, look, let me tell you something. In fact, I even want to pull up the audio so you can hear it. I didn't grow up in the 60s. I was obviously born in the late 70s. But I listened to a sports radio broadcaster from New York that he used to be big on the radio, but now he does a small little podcast for sports. And let me see if I can find it. Okay, this might be it right here.
The problem now is
Listen to this.
that, and in politics.
So for those of you who his name is Mike Francesa. I used to love listening to him. And if you watch ESPN, you might have heard of the Mad Dog. Well, Mad Dog Russo and this gentleman, Mike Francesa, used to do sports radio talk. So I still listen to his podcast, but he doesn't really normally get into politics, or usually he kind of combs it over and tries to bring sports in to kind of alleviate things. But even he couldn't ignore this. And the reason he couldn't ignore this is because of how different it was from the 60s. And that's what I want you to hear. So I want to get to that part in the video.
Because, hey, all it does is divide your audience, because everyone has different feelings and different beliefs, especially in these incredibly intense, heated times. Okay, I thought the 60s were bad. These make the 60s look like it was, a lot easier than I thought.
That right there is what I wanted you to hear. Listen to it again. Listen to what he said. This is a guy who grew up in the 60s when shit like this was going down, and he's saying it's worse now.
One has different feelings and different beliefs, especially in these incredibly intense, heated times. Okay, I thought the 60s were bad. These make the 60s look like it was, a lot easier than I thought. But you wonder where we are right now.
And that's the question. Where are we? And I asked my parents, because they grew up in the 60s as well. And because I wanted to hear it from, just a different side. What I wanted to see if maybe he was over exaggerating. Because again, none of us were really around back then. And my parents echoed that. My parents said this is scarier and worse than it was in the 60s. And the reason for that is because my dad and mom said in the 60s, it primarily came from the right. But when tragic things happened, everyone got together and mourned like JFK, like MLK. They said the difference now is that now that the left's doing it, it's more vitriol and it's not actually bringing the country together. And they said, now, of course, we have the advantage of the internet to show us just how bad some humans out there are. But they said, even with that, the sentiment, the feeling you get, because my parents are not on X. My parents are not really on YouTube. But even with that, the feeling, like when they watch the mainstream media and how the mainstream media was feigning regret or feigning, mourning Charlie Kirk. They were kind of like, yeah, he died, but yeah, this is terrible. But they said the sentiment, the feeling is completely different. Like there is no, oh my God, this is tragic. Let's hold hands and pray and come together. That was the difference. They said there's none of that right now. And even my dad was like, fuck these people. And my father is very like even keel, down the middle. I mean, he was still telling me, you got to be careful with some of this. But even with that, he was like, but yeah, man, these motherfuckers are pissing me off. And I wrote on Facebook and I wrote on Twitter. I quoted Admiral Yamamoto. Now, there's no proof that he actually said this within history, but the line was made famous by a movie called Tora, 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 which is about the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the aftermath. And the line was, I'm afraid that all we have done was awaken the sleeping giant and filled him with incredible resolve. And I kind of get like that's what's happening. I told everyone who are born in the past and the 30s to 70s was their worst years. Yeah. It's worse because it happened to a regular person and tons of people were okay with it and celebrated. No more agree to disagree. They want you gone. Well, no, dude. Charlie Kirk was not a regular person. Charlie Kirk was like Martin Luther King level, if not slightly higher because of the power of the internet. Like this is not, if it was a regular person, people wouldn't be outraged like this. They were already outraged for the young Ukrainian girl who got stabbed right here in North Carolina in Charlotte on the train. And that happened, what, 2 or 3 days before what happened with Charlie Kirk? It's also very important that you guys show resolve in a sense of there's a lot of bullshit going on right now. If you guys have been following me on Twitter, I called out this guy for trying to promote a picture of the shooter with a MAGA shirt on, which was clearly photoshopped from an original picture that was posted from the FBI, a picture of him wearing a red t-shirt. It was more like maroon, more like my color. And some idiot photoshopped it and tried to say this guy's MAGA. This kid was not MAGA. There are people saying that his parents were staunch Republicans. They were definitely Christian from the way it looks. However, the FBI already combed through the last 13 years of their social media feeds. There has been not one piece of political posting in the last 13 years on any of their social media. So who knows what they are? They could be right. They could be, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that at some point their son got corrupted. All right. You guys, if you don't know, we'll go over it again. The bullets were encrypted, excuse me. The bullets were engraved with, here fascists catch this. All right. We already know that everybody on the left calls us fascists, right? They call us Nazis. Bella ciao, ciao, ciao. All right. That's literally an Antifa cry. So for those of you who don't know, Antifa actually has been around for years. All right. It was an Italian thing. It was what the Italians shouted when they fought fascists, right? There was an engraved. They didn't mention this surprisingly on the press briefing when they announced that they caught him. But one of his bullets had TRN, which many believe, we don't have conclusive evidence, but I think it should be noted that it said TRN. there was another thing engraved that said something about seeing the bulge and uwu. So you guys know if it's furry culture, essentially, which is just a subset that derives from transgenderism. All right, you guys have heard of furries, and you guys have seen furry culture on Twitter. When you guys complain about those pictures that make Godzilla and Mothra look feminine and in a relationship, that is essentially furry culture. All right, and the whole uwu thing, that's all derives from transgenderism. It all derives from that. So even though this guy was not transgender, even though he was clearly, a lot of people are saying he's Antifa, but the bottom line is he's on the left. He got brainwashed with all their bullshit. He thought that Charlie Kirk was promoting hate speech, which we all know hate speech is a left thing. It's not a right thing. We believe in free speech, and we believe hate speech doesn't exist. All hate speech is someone saying something you either don't like or you disagree with. Hate speech is not a thing. All right. If somebody says something you don't like or that you disagree with, that's just something you don't like or disagree with. Period. End of discussion. We are seeing now in England what hate speech is doing when normal people are getting arrested for making tweets. Is that what we really want? This is why I think we need to ban any chance of legislation ever being passed that has social, communist, or Marxist ideologies. It kind of toes the same line, Cass. It's not uwu, it's with UWW. It's uwu with OWO. Pronounced the same, apparently two different meanings. Because they showed the meme. And it was very transgender, like where it came from. So, just so you distinct, yeah, OO is gay. Whatever. I'm sure we're going to get more information because they're going into his Discord, which is where he was talking about, putting the gun and all this and all that. But I'm more than sure there's going to be some crazy shit coming. Look, the kid got radicalized and he committed a crime, and I hope I get to see him die. I'm going to be very honest. They're pretty much the same, but I guess there's some difference. Either or. I actually live streamed last week, Shrooms. In fact, I was doing videos this week and I never got them up because the first one I recorded, I had an audio problem. And I tried recording several times. It so happens that when I reinstalled the software for my teleprompter, they added an update that included it with the camera and they renamed it Camera Hub. So it by default looks for a webcam with a mic attached. So it kept overriding my mic, even though this is the only mic I had. And by the time I finally figured it out, I was already behind. So as some of you know, I made a post Wednesday saying I was going to live stream my recordings because I wanted to cut down on wasted time. And then this happened, and that pretty much changed everything for the week. If I was doing this stream 2 days ago, some of the things that I presented earlier in the beginning of this video in terms of legislation and stuff that I want to see passed would have been a lot worse. It would have been a lot worse. Believe me, I was like, yeah. But I also think that as sound-minded as people on the right are, despite what the left may say, I believe we can avoid being too far gone. Like, I don't think, when you think about the things I spoke about in the beginning, they all are net negative. We suffer no loss by getting rid of it. Yes, you can argue the merits of free speech and this and that, or you can argue the merits that kind of forces us into capitalism. Well, tell me where any of the other ideologies exceed capitalism. They are nothing but a net negative. History has proven that. So let's not even give it an opportunity to ever come here, ever, which is why I think it should be an amendment, not a legislation. There should be an amendment that bans and prevents any political figure that gets into power from passing any legislation that would support radical communist, socialist, and Marxist ideologicalism. Ban it outright. Never to happen here in this country. I heard Discord was going to be more regulated prior to the shooting. Well, it probably is going to be, because apparently that is kind of like a meeting point. If you run a normal Discord, I mean, you don't have anything to worry about, but there's probably going to be some, over the next couple of weeks, they're probably going to be monitoring it because, you know, there's fear of retaliation. And I got to be honest with you. Obviously I don't want it to happen, because that's just going to make matters worse, especially for us, because these motherfuckers are experts at playing the victim. They're even trying to play the victim now, despite the fact that it's their side that committed this murder. But sadly, I think it's bound to happen. I think it's bound to happen. And if I had to guess who would be the target, if somebody went nuts and decided to go out and get revenge, if I was that dude from New York, Mamdani, I'd hire extra security, because he's essentially the Charlie Kirk of the left right now. Not nearly as popular, but he's getting there. And if he becomes mayor, Matt Frank? What do you mean? What is he saying? Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Rick. This when you spend a decade calling half of the country deplorable, Nazis, fascists, you're basically calling them all the things that you actually are. It's like you know, the guilty always blame. That's the saying, right? The guilty always blame. So yeah, you're gonna convince a certain percentage of the population that that's what we are, and that often justifies, in their eyes, violence. All the typical names. And you said this is on Instagram? Maybe I should take some screenshots. For the first time ever, I went through my Facebook page the other day, and I went on my friends list, and I must have unfriended a good amount of people that, including family members. Like, that's where I'm at now. I want nothing to do with people who are on that side. Nothing at all. As far as I'm concerned, I don't wish any harm upon them. I don't wish death upon them or any of that stuff, but I don't have to associate with them. And I certainly am going to there he is. Let me see. What is he saying? Is he live? Oh, wait, here we are. Okay, here it is. This is Matt Frank, Godzilla artist. The reason we are giving... He said this... Wait, did he say this on X? All right, let me see if I can put it this way. And... The reason we are giving so much more oxygen to Charlie Kirk's death than any recent school shooting, like the one in Evergreen that literally just happened. Focus Evergreen, okay, hours ago, is because in our society, white conservatives are the ones who do the shooting, not the ones who get shot. This fucking piece of shit. So this event has become an existential crisis for every conservative that, you know what? This motherfucker. Here it is. I just want to get a screenshot of this. Hold on. I gotta log in and I don't remember my username or password. I wanted to get a screenshot of it, but when you click it, it tells you to sign in, and I'm like, oh, I don't remember my login for this shit. Matt Frank has been insufferable. Oh, is Matt Frank? Oh, snap, Rob's about to start. Fuck him. See if I can find him on X. See what the kind of bullshit he's spreading on there, because I'm pretty sure he's saying it on there too. Hold on. That's here it is. Hold on. Matt Frank is working on. I think this is him. This is him. All right, let's see what kind of bullshit he's spreading. He may not have said it on his X account. He probably just put it on his let's see. Yeah, I don't think he's put it on X. He's not that stupid. Yeah, he hasn't put anything on X, but somebody can get me a screenshot of that Instagram post he made. And for the record, nobody ignored the shooting. If you want to blame people who didn't report on the shooting that happened the same day Kirk got shot, yeah, why don't you blame CNN and shit like that? They didn't talk about it. I know I knew about it. Fox reported it. Was it as heavily covered? No. But it's not like it was ignored. There's no way. Yeah, definitely send me that screenshot. I want to make sure I have that on record. I actually put this motherfucker on my channel once a couple of years ago. Some of you might remember. Thank you. Ever since the Ariana Zatuska's death video and finding... Yeah, that was terrible. What happened to that young lady. And you know, I love the fact that these motherfuckers want to sit there and, oh, but what about the school shooting? You motherfuckers are the ones shooting them. What, are you kidding me? And then what happens when these kids get shot? Oh, it's always the same bullshit. Gun control, gun control. Yeah, of course they want gun control. Because when all our guns are gone, then you see what's happening in England? They don't allow their citizens to have guns anymore. Now they're all getting arrested for having opinions. There's too many old school, Americans here that know their rights. They're not going to let that shit happen here. What's going on, Bobby? I control New York guns. The guy stabbing the girl has been arrested for 14 times. Yeah, that's another thing we need to do. We need to bring back insane asylums and lock these motherfuckers up in the asylum. The fuck on the train had 14 prior arrests and let out with no ball in January. Yeah, these people are fucking evil, man. They're evil. They're all evil. I mean, it's not going to be hard. And here's more bullshit. Right here. Here's somebody putting up a tweet. Tyler Robinson is a registered Republican that donated to pedo Trump. Not true. It's already been proven that he was not actually registered either way, or one way or the other. So that's bullshit. And that's what you're getting now. They're trying to spin it. Don't let them do it. Look at this one, a random white guy. So, no trans, no gay, no leftist. He's not trans, he's not gay, but he is a leftist. And he made it pretty clear that he was supporting trans rights. So, yeah. Yeah, don't let these motherfuckers try that bullshit. Oh, here's something else I want to bring to your attention in case you guys didn't hear this. So you're going to start hearing a stat going around. Okay? It's very important that you know this. And if you get an opportunity, I think it'll be rectified within a couple of days, hopefully by Monday, but I think this is going to start going around. So you're going to start hearing people talking about statistical proof that shows that 76% of right-leaning conservatives are causing political violence, and only 4% of left-leaning Democrats are the cause for violence. This was a statistic that was stated by a congressperson, a Democratic congressman. I don't remember his name. However, obviously that's not correct. The reason that stat is out there is because the left-leaning violence that has happened, in particular, the school shootings by the trannies and all that shit, and the two Jews that got killed in Washington and all that stuff, they have not been recorded as political violence. Therefore, they don't get included in the statistic. So, if you want to learn, I think that I hope somebody rectifies that. But I learned that if you get a chance, watch Michael Knowles' podcast from today. He states that what they're doing is it's being reported locally, not federally. So, for example, he investigated it. He said, wait a minute. There were 2 political attacks here in Nashville from a trans person, and he went and inquired about that and found out that they were not being recorded as political violence. So keep that in mind, because people are going to start spitting that out. They're going to spit that out, and you got to tell them it's not accurate. There have been political attacks from the left that are not being recognized or recorded as political attacks the way some attacks on the right have been. Like the attack on Nancy Pelosi, her husband, remember that a couple of years ago? So that was obviously recorded as a political attack. I still question whether that guy's even right-leaning. I thought he was gay. There was a theory that he was the gay lover of Nancy Pelosi's husband, but I'm not sure. You know? Yeah, and that's not being recorded as a political violence. Even though, and the argument is that it's ideological violence, but ideological and political go hand in hand. So the fact that they're not recording it that way when it happens to us, but they're recording it that way when it happens to them is fucked up. It's to a point where my friend's girlfriend won't stop bothering me about the tragedy, saying he manifested it. Yeah, well, you better tell your friend's girlfriend to shut the fuck up. Otherwise, she's going to manifest something. Did you send me? All right, because I wanted to read the full comment. I'm getting old, guys. My vision's not that great, so little text like that from the phone don't work for me. Let me pull this up right quick. I do want to read this. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so this is from Matt Frank via Instagram. All right, for those of you who don't know, Matt Frank is the fucking Godzilla artist that everybody loves. Now, I'm not expecting this to really throw the Godzilla community in an uproar because I know there's a lot of leftists in the Godzilla community. The reason we are giving so much more oxygen to Charlie Kirk's death than any recent school shooting, like the one in Evergreen that literally just happened hours ago, is because in our society, white conservatives are the ones who do the shooting, not the ones who get shot. So this event has become an existential crisis for every conservative and centrist in America who are now either begging for civility or showing outright hostility to anyone who is immediately falling all over themselves to denounce the shooting, because they have just realized that in America, no one is safe from gun violence. This is probably, and again, I could sit here for hours and break down everything that's wrong about this, but you guys don't need that because you guys are smart. But the fact that he is trying to use that, and that's one of four. He actually wrote more than that. Hold on. Well, we didn't get to see it, unfortunately, but it says one of four. So it would have been interesting to see what else he wrote. First of all, he's wrong about the Evergreen thing. Nobody ignored that. It wasn't as mainstream as it would have been if Charlie Kirk didn't get shot. But that's because of channels like CNN and MSNBC who have consistently shown not to report any major events that would contradict what they like to push. For example, when the Ukrainian girl got stabbed, the only reason it was brought to light was because of independent media raising it to the roofs. MSNBC, CNN, those fucking channels never reported that. All right? But there were plenty of people talking about that Evergreen event. So don't let this bullshit say otherwise. His whole notion that white conservatives are the ones who do the shooting, not the ones who get shot. First of all, if he wants to have white guilt on himself, that's his problem. I'm not white. I'm Puerto Rican. And I can tell you right now, I would never have any guilt for being the race that I am, and no one should. So if he wants to try and virtue signal against white conservatives because he's guilty of really nothing he's ever done, then do it to yourself. Don't try and pull other people into it that you have no idea about, that don't believe any of the guilty shit that you believe, okay? There's not one fucking person in this country alive right now that has ever held a slave or that has been a slave. So this shit needs to stop. Finally, this event has become an existential crisis for every conservative and centrist in America who are now either begging for civility. See, this motherfucker doesn't know shit. We have tried to be civil with the left for 10 years. We've asked don't do cancel culture. We've asked, let's have a discussion. Let's communicate. Let's find some common ground. Their response was, we're Nazis. We're fascist. We're everything wrong with this country. They have called us deplorable. They have told us how much the orange man is bad. They have put us in a position where enough crazy people out there have bought in to this bullshit and are now willing to cause violence. Matt Frank, and I'm going to say this straight up, Matt Frank is the white racist that I despise. Take it from a minority like me, I can see a racist a mile the fuck away, and he is one of them. You know why? Because minorities like myself do not need Matt Frank to speak up for me. Black people do not need Matt Frank to speak out against white people. This motherfucker is a disgrace to the Godzilla community, even though many of them will continue to suck his dick. Michelle got the other ones? Thank you. Oh, Michelle, I love you. Here we go. Kirk Shooter has been confirmed as Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old white Mormon man, gun enthusiast, and Trump supporter. Wrong and wrong. First of all, he was raised by a religious family. He himself is not religious. Secondly, gun enthusiast. I don't know how you become a gun enthusiast when the one gun you own is actually considered an antique. A gun enthusiast doesn't just own one gun, let alone, now they might buy an antique and put it on display, but if you're out there shooting an antique, chances are you do not have enough money to be a gun enthusiast. He was not a gun enthusiast. He was just a sick fuck. He said, and he was a Trump supporter. This is confirmed a lie. This is confirmed not true. Okay? Again, review all the carvings that were on the bullets. Now, another thing that people on that side are going to tell you is that that's bullshit. How can you carve into a bullet? Well, turns out it's not that hard to carve into brass. If you know your basic metals, or if you took chemistry, you would know that brass is not like, it's not like steel or whatever the fuck. Carving a little note or a little something into a brass bullet, not that hard. So again, he's spitting bullshit here. What else did he write? Let me see. Let me go through this here. Here's another one from Matt Frank. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term, and it does a lot of damage. That is not a quote from Charlie Kirk. That is not a quote from Charlie Kirk. Matt is pushing propaganda, just like a communist. Here's another one from Matt. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he is qualified. It's another quote he's pulling from Charlie Kirk. You want to know something? If I see any fucking pilot, I'd want them to be qualified. But I think he's taking this out of context, and I'll tell you why. This was around the time that airliners were using DEI. Okay, my camera went out. No, we're still having that problem, I see. Give me a second here. Yeah, I had to close my door tonight, guys, because I don't really want my kids hearing this. So that's probably why it's overheating. But anyway, so around the time DEI, but I can tell you right now, this is not word for word what Charlie Kirk said. I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Never said that. I do remember Charlie Kirk discussing during the time these planes were crashing, and some airlines were practicing DEI. He did mention that because of DEI, we're getting pilots that are not qualified. And that was true, and there were a lot of people saying that. He's mispresenting what Charlie Kirk actually said. More bullshit. Another one from Matt Frank. I think it's worth. He's constantly misquoting Charlie Kirk or putting up straight up bullshit. I think it's worth to have the cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have a Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. I know Charlie Kirk said something along those lines. I don't know. I don't believe that's word for word, but regardless, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. There's going to be gun deaths, and it is unfortunate, and it does suck. But that's no excuse to take away the rights of everyone to arm themselves and have the opportunity to protect themselves. That's just blatant and blunt truth. And that's the problem with people on their side. They don't like the truth. Yeah. Well, no, the girl? Yeah. When that happened, you either, yeah, sorry about that. I don't know how many times it's gonna go out because, like I said, I have my door closed. It increases the heat, and the camera has a problem overheating after a while. If I have my door open, it lets the AC come in and it tends to last longer. This is one of the reasons why I moved the camera here, and that it's not in back of the monitors where heat is adding to it. But with the door closed, I didn't think it was going to happen, but I guess it still did. Yeah, the girl on the subway is definitely heartbreaking. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, Matt Frank is, I mean, he's just a typical leftist. Like I said, he's spitting propaganda. He's misinformed. He's an idiot. He's a talented drawer, but he's not very smart. And I hope he loses commissions. Honestly, I really do. But like I said, a lot of Godzilla fans tend to lean left. So, a lot of the younger ones, I should say. But, you know what? I hope AI puts his ass out of business. Fuck him. Yeah, there's some older ones, but it's more commonly younger ones. Yeah, and that's true. And even if he did say controversial things like that, that doesn't justify killing anyone. So even if what he's saying is true, that does not justify going and gunning down people. Interlapse into the furry rat. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. That's very true, Leon. But I think it's waking a lot of people up. There's even Democrats moving to Republicans. Well, yeah. You think D-Man's a leftist? I don't. Yeah, but I don't. I definitely feel like he leans left, but not hardcore. I think. I think. Maybe I'll just put a picture of me up. I think D-Man probably doesn't want to get involved. Like that's not his domain. Like I don't think he would. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think he's really political, but I do think if he were to talk about it, he probably does lean left. But I'm not saying that he leans left like hardcore like these fuckers. And I don't care if you're on the left, but if you're on that hardcore portion that is just celebrating someone's death and you want nothing but the worst for people in this country, then yeah, go fuck yourself. But that doesn't mean you can't be on the left. Just don't be a fucking psycho. That's all. Just don't be a fucking psycho. "200 Easter eggs you missed in 15-second teaser." Yeah, nah. I wouldn't listen to him about politics. Did he do a video with 200 Easter eggs in 15 seconds? Yeah, 25 years ago, Dems weren't like this. No, they were not like this. I think back to Bill Clinton, and boy, he looks very conservative now by comparison. It's crazy. I never thought I would say that. Yeah, they don't give a shit about it. That's why I don't understand why Democrats don't let that go. These motherfuckers don't care about it. They want to overtake the Democrats. It's not like the youth on the right. The youth on the right are trying, which, by the way, Charlie Kirk's the one that convinced the whole generation. They are very focused and look, everything's bad now. But I really believe in 30 years, and you know, I may not be here, but I really think like in 30 years, it's going to be a conservative. I mean, it's almost a conservative country now. Things like this make it easier because now all the people that are in the middle, they're just getting pushed to the right. They're just going to get pushed to the right. But in 30 years, when you consider all these fuckers on the other side kill their unborn children, or don't want to have children and don't get married, I mean, after a while, you're only going to have conservatives left because the only people having children are conservatives. It came during your trip to California? Yeah, that's terrible. D-Man found 79 Easter eggs in the Supernova teaser. Jesus Christ. That's like a 20-second teaser when you really think about it, because it starts off, it fades in from black, and the black screen is there for like 10 seconds, and then it fades to black for like 20 seconds. Oh yeah, the Dems were definitely taken over by more. Yeah, you're right. Mamdani, you got Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders is still there. You got the fucking Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. Who else you got? You got the young black woman now. What's her name? Crockett. I think her last name's Crockett. You got the other one from Georgia who thought she won the governance in I think 2018. Then you got the one with the bald head. I forget her fucking name, but she's an idiot. Yeah, they got like 10 prominent Democrats in that party that are hardcore Marxist. Nah, I forgot her first name. And that's another thing too. I think about, like God and what he must think when he looks down. And I think to myself just how evil those people are. And they don't believe in God. But that doesn't mean that when their day comes that they're not going to meet him and be judged. And let me tell you something. God is not someone's bad side I'd want to be on. You know what I mean? If you are as evil as some of the people have shown themselves to be in the last 72 hours, feel safe in your belief that God doesn't exist. But once you're dead, that safety's gone. I would not want to be any of those fuckers on my deathbed and not see the light as I fade away. I would not want to be that. Can you imagine the fear? Can you imagine the amount of fear and dread that would go through your soul when you pass over and realize that there is a God and there is a hell? Oof. Why does the left hate Sanders? I kind of feel like the left hates everyone because the hardcore left actually just want to burn shit down. They just want anarchy and chaos. They don't really want what they say they want. They use everything as a tool for victimhood. That's why when they talk about racist white people, I guarantee you this. If the hardcore left were to gain control of this country, people like me, minorities, people who speak up for minorities, and I'm talking about the good ones, right? And black people would be done. I guarantee you, they'd be done. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not here to preach. You look. I think I believe in God. I still have a lot of improving to do in that area because with all my beliefs in God and Christ and all that, I still have a hard time going to church. And I don't believe in preaching to people because I kind of believe that if you try to preach to people, you only push them further away. I think people need to find it in themselves to have a conversation with God and pray. And I hope people that don't believe, I hope they do. You know, I really do. It doesn't mean if you currently don't believe in God, it doesn't mean you're evil, especially if you're not doing evil things like these people. But I do think it's a good thing. And I have had moments in my life that I firmly believe that I was saved because of my belief in God. I mean, a lot of you know what happened to me back in 2020. And a lot of miracles happened from the time I was in the hospital till the next year. So God is a provisioner. And if you communicate with him and if you talk to him and if you pray to him and if you believe in him, there are things in life he will reward you with. And it may not be anything major, but it makes a difference. You know, you might get a promotion at work that you weren't expecting, or you might land that job. And yeah, when stuff like that happens, I always give credit I always say God is good. God is good. Being with God is not, I mean, of course it's not a bad thing, but the people who dismiss him, the people who what's the word I'm looking for? Not joke. It's like mock. The people who mock him, or the people who mock those who believe in him, and the people who dance on the grave of people like Charlie Kirk, their day's coming. And all I can say to them is God bless them. The truth is a hard pill to swallow. That's why these motherfuckers hate us. I'm liberal and actually pretty far left, and despite many other things Charlie Kirk has said, but the people celebrating his death are flat out sickening. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying that you should agree with Charlie Kirk. You know, that's your own choice. But the vitriol and the subhuman nature of those celebrating his death is something to wake people up. These are not the kind of people you want in your country. And again, I'm not saying that we react with violence. You guys heard me at the top of the hour, or rather last hour, when I opened up and I gave you what I believe needs to happen for this to end. That's what I believe. That's my extreme. My extreme does not include any violence or anything, but it does include beating them into submission legislatively. Elliot Mullins, I've been actively recognizing how grateful for the life God has given me in both the good times and the bad in the past few months. Everyone's walk with Christ is different. It's very true. It's very, very true. You know, I thought I was a goner in 2020, man. I remember, I never forget when I got to the hospital and they took a urine sample from me, and I didn't realize how serious it was. I mean, I knew it was serious because of how I felt. But when I saw that my urine was like a bronze color, which, if you know anything, that means your kidneys are shutting down. That means your organs are shutting down. I was very close. And it took 5 days in the hospital for them to nurse me back. And thank God they did. And then I got stuck with that huge bill because I hadn't had medical coverage because I was transitioning from work. Because remember, I had just moved from Massachusetts to North Carolina. And I got stuck with like I think it was like about $25,000 medical bill from the hospital. And they had set me up for Medicaid in the hospital. And I got a letter from Medicaid saying that I wasn't eligible because even with me not working at that moment, I was collecting from Massachusetts, and my wife was still working, and we made too much money. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to buy my house now, and blah, 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 blah. And about 3 weeks later, I got a letter saying that Medicaid had covered all the bills at the hospital. And what was crazy was the night before that happened, I had a dream about my grandmother. I'm sorry about the camera again. I'll keep working this out. I'll keep talking as I fix it. I had a dream about my grandmother who passed away back in 1988. Hold on a minute. And I want to make a long story short, in that dream, she essentially guided me to a part of I was like in a house. And it wasn't her house. It was a house made up of different places I had been in my life up to that point. And I remember, I believe like she had told me to punch a hole in the wall. And in the wall, there was a bag full of money. And when I found the bag of money, I woke up. That morning when the mail came in, I got the letter saying that all my bills had been covered. And I wasn't stuck with the $25,000 bill anymore. Oh man, it did it again. This is getting bad. So yeah. FBI opened up. You shouldn't be streaming this shit. Yeah. So yeah. And that's just one of many things that make me know that God is real. I'm sorry, but what left-wing politicians are making fun of Kirk's death? Every single Democrat has been speaking out against the violence that took him, Sanders. Yeah, it's not the politicians, dude. We're talking about the ones making fun on Twitter. But even with that, yes, they've been saying the right things, but it's hollow because they're the ones that have been calling conservative Nazis for the last 10 years. They're the ones that have been calling us fascists, saying Trump and his followers are deplorable. So, yeah, they said the right thing. You want to give them credit for that? Fine. But we know how they feel. It's funny that they talk like that when shit hits the fan, but how about not talking like that at all? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, grandma showing out even from the great beyond. That's true. And not to mention they're spitting the whole gun shit again. Which even if you're a Democrat, you got to believe that their cries for gun control ring hollow. What legislation has a Democrat passed that would change any of the gun laws or even make an attempt to change the Second Amendment. Let's be real. Joe Biden was in office for 4 years. He did nothing about gun control. Nothing. Barack Obama was in office for 8 years. He did nothing. So before you come and start talking about conservatives, your own people who always spit this bullshit about gun control are not doing it. And I'm fine with that, by the way. I don't want people to control. I have a gun and I want to keep it. But if you're going to defend them, at least be willing to criticize that they haven't really done shit for you guys. Oh, here we go. Dude, when the Minnesota representative and her husband was assassinated back in June, we had conservative politicians making statements like nightmare on Wall Street. Well, it's his state, is it not? Didn't the killer say that he came under the direction of Waltz? I'm not saying it's true, but those were his words. And regardless of whether he came for Waltz or he's a conservative, we all said that was terrible. Nobody celebrated that shit on our side. So if you want to do the whataboutism like it's always done, do it all you want. It doesn't change the fact that we weren't sitting there drawing pictures of those motherfuckers dead like people have done with Charlie Kirk. We did not post TikTok celebrating that shit. Okay? So instead of sitting here trying to defend your side, maybe have some decency and just say, you know what? This is fucked up. Because it is. But if you're going to sit here and you're going to want to do the whole back and forth, what about? I can tell you right now, there's a lot more whatabouts in my favor in terms of the violence coming from your side. And if you despise violence, I don't know. What have you done? Have you disavowed the violence that happened to the Ukrainian girl? What about Charlie Kirk? What about the kids that were shot in school a couple of months back? What about them? Did you disavow that violence? I'm about to disavow my fucking camera. Nightmare. So you think Nightmare on Wall Street is just as bad as people celebrating the death? Because saying Nightmare on Wall Street is not celebrating the death of those two people. All he's essentially saying in a colorful way, which, all right, if you want to argue it's inappropriate, fine, I'll agree with you there. But all he's really saying is that this is his state. His state is known for violence. And because of his lack of fortitude to take charge and put more police on the street, this came to his constituents, probably his colleagues, more so than anything. But if your purpose is to come in here and just do what about, then you're kind of missing the point. You're instead of saying, hey man, I'm on the left, I'm a Democratic voter, but yeah, this shit is bullshit. You didn't do that. You came in here and your first thing was, oh, but what about, yeah, well, you know what? We didn't celebrate, dude. You're picking out one person who made an off-color comment. He didn't even celebrate their death. He made one off-color comment. I'm sorry, but that does not compare to what has happened to conservatives in the last 6 months in this country. Your argument is very weak. Yeah, but you see, you're doing it again. He didn't joke about them dying. He didn't say, haha, these motherfuckers are dead. He made an off-color comment about the rise in crime under the watch of Tim Waltz. You're trying to spin it. You're doing typical leftist shit. You're trying to make your situation and yourself and your people the victim. The victims were those who were killed. None of us celebrated that. You are cherry picking one off-color comment. One. And the off-color comment did not even in any way, shape, or form celebrate the death of the two people. So stop with your victimhood bullshit. Give it a rest. Dude, where have you been? It wasn't just one comment. There are tweets still up right now that mock the deaths of those two representatives. Okay, well, where are they? They apparently, your side didn't give a shit enough to make it a big deal. I mean, you want me to take you at your word. You came in here in bad faith. You know, I haven't seen those tweets. Okay. Do they exist? Maybe. Am I going to take your word for it? Fuck no. Fuck no. You guys are known to lie and play victim. So get the fuck out of here. I'm not condoning anyone who celebrates the death of anyone, but you're coming in here in bad faith, and I don't trust a word you say. Oh, there are tweets up right now. Yeah, maybe there are. But why should I believe you? You guys have done nothing but lie. You come in here, you're already spitting bullshit. You didn't come here and want to make any kind of argument in good faith. You didn't even stop for a minute and say, hey, man, what happened Wednesday was terrible. Nope. Came in here, but what about trying to play the victim? If you're going to play the victim, go fuck yourself. Just leave. Look, I'm not in any mood to be nice to people on your side. I'm in no mood to have a discussion with people on your side. You people have made the decision. Your people, the people you support, the people who have called us Nazis, the people who have called us fascists and all this bullshit for the last 10 years have led to the death of not only children that are in, Catholic schools or Protestant schools or private schools, but have led to the death of someone who is actually trying to reach out to you. And you want to come in here and you want to cry about something that happened in June while providing no evidence of anyone on my side dancing on their graves. You cherry pick one fucking comment, one off-color comment that even that comment doesn't celebrate their death, and you want to come in here and you want to try and cry? Get the fuck out of here. You want to hear the cold truth? You want to hear the cold truth? Here's why I know you're fucking lying. You know why? Nobody knew those people enough to give a fuck about going out there and celebrating their death. I don't even remember their fucking names, all right? You want to know the truth? I don't know who the fuck they are. They shouldn't have died. Nobody should be murdered. We all know that. I think we can all agree on that. But you want to know why some people... If there's any loonies on the right who would celebrate anyone's death, they're not going to celebrate those people. You know why? Nobody knows who the fuck they are. That's the truth. Well, if you can't provide the evidence in the chat section, then no, bring it the fuck up. And no, I'm not going to bring you on stream. I don't know who the fuck you are. I'm not going to give you a platform to spout your shit. Get the fuck out of here. Go start your own channel. I'm done with let's have a peaceful discourse. You want to fucking talk? Start your own fucking channel and spit your bullshit. All right. My camera is probably not going to cooperate much longer. Obviously, as you guys see, I'm like getting up every 5 minutes to turn it back on. So we're probably going to call it. I've said my piece. All right. I don't know where I'm going to put this stream yet, but I'm not going to keep it on the channel because anytime things like this happen and we do speak about real world events, I don't want to put it on the channel because I know a lot of people just want to come here for the entertainment of the Godzilla stuff, and that's kind of how I keep it. So, but that's why your channel is sinking, dude. My channel's been sinking in 2015. You're not telling me anything I don't know. All right. And one of the reasons it's sinking is because I have a real life. I have children, and I can't always consistently make videos for someone like you who lives online, like you're being fed intravenously. So let's just do that. I'm done with people like this. Yep, let's just do that. Goodbye. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't finish. Yep, let's do that. I'm done. I am done. Goodbye. That's how we're getting down going forward. I'm done listening to these fucking people. You want to come here and cry about two people who died in I don't even remember their fucking name. And again, I don't mean to sound dismissive. They should still be alive. But that was already spoken about. That was done and over with. I didn't celebrate it when I heard it. I don't know anybody who celebrated it. Might there have been a couple of people? Maybe. But I didn't see it. Not saying that just because I didn't see it, it didn't happen. But to compare the two, there's no comparison. The bottom line is nobody should have died. Not the people in Minnesota, not Charlie Kirk, not the kids in school. But you can't sit here and come. The minute you come in here and you want to start playing whataboutism on recent events versus something that happened 6 months ago, you're already starting off on a bad foot. So, when's the next stream? It'll be soon. Maybe, probably tomorrow, but I don't want to promise anything yet. I still need to calm down. Yeah. Rob Talk stream. I actually transformed Rob Talks into Kaiju Tunes. So, which I still have like 20 songs I gotta upload on there. I haven't done it yet. All right, we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. I think I got my point across. And you guys have a good one. Stay safe. God bless. And don't let these people try to fucking come in and make you feel guilty about some shit that you didn't even celebrate the way the people on their side are celebrating. I'm not falling for that victim shit again. You can go to hell with that. All right. That's it for tonight, guys. You have a good one. If I do stream tomorrow, which I probably should be, I don't know. I mean, I know me and my son are going to the courts because he's going to be trying out for the basketball team. So he wanted to go to the courts tomorrow. So hopefully it doesn't rain. But beyond that, I don't think I have any big plans. So I should be back on here tomorrow. We'll probably, I'll test the temperature. But I don't see why we shouldn't get back to talking about Godzilla and entertainment stuff, you know? But, yeah, you guys have a good night, and hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right? Take it easy.